The Grand Vestibule of the Zeosian Palace was a cathedral of silence. Its polished obsidian floor reflected the swirling nebula visible through the towering viewport. Princess Lyra stood apart from her diplomatic escort, her silver gown shimmering like captive starlight. She had studied the human delegation for 3 standard days. They were loud, clumsy, their gestures too broad, their emotions too easily read on their strange, flexible faces. Simple creatures, fascinating in a primitive sort of way, but nothing to fear. The tales of human ferocity were surely ancient exaggerations. A low hum of conversation filled the space, a mix of Zeosian clicks and human English. Lyra's gaze settled on a human male, a soldier by posture. Unlike the others, he did not gesticulate wildly. He stood near a pillar, silent, simply watching the nebula. His stillness was deeper and more unsettling than the noise around him. Lyra turned to comment to her aide, but her words caught in her throat. The silence beside her had changed. A presence settled in the air, a subtle displacement. She didn't need to turn her head. Her enhanced senses felt the warmth of a larger body, the soft exhale of breath. From the corner of her eye, she saw a broad shoulder and a simply dressed arm. The soldier had left his post and sat on the bench beside her. The silence between them was not empty. It was a living weight. Lyra's heart, an organ she prided herself on controlling, beat a fraction faster. Guards remained a discreet distance away, deeming this proximity acceptable and non-threatening. No chart, no cultural guide could explain the simple terror of one human choosing to share her space. She could feel the faint vibration of his breathing through the polished stone. He made no move to speak, to stare, to do anything expected. He simply sat, gaze fixed on the distant swirl of cosmic dust. She stole a glance. His face was weathered, lined by suns different from her own. His hands, resting on his knees, bore faint traces of old scars. Not diplomats' hands, hands that had built, fought, endured. The silence stretched, seconds elongating into an eternity. Lyra's mind raced. Was this a test? A display of dominance? Her own culture prized stillness, but this was different. A wall of calm that pressed against her consciousness. Then he turned his head. Startling, simple blue eyes met hers. No aggression, no crude curiosity. Just quiet acknowledgement, as if noting the weather. A single, slow nod. He looked away at the stars. In that brief contact, Lyra felt not threatened, but seen. Far more profound and far more frightening. A shrill alarm shattered the vestibule's peace. A pure Zeosian emergency. The obsidian floor trembled. Through the viewport, a swarm of tiny darting ships emerged from behind a nearby moon, their hulls the color of dried blood. Raiders, the ancient enemies of Zyos. The palace defense grid was down for maintenance. They were defenseless. Panic erupted. Zeosian officials cried out in clicks, scattering, seeking cover that did not exist. Lyra stumbled, jostled in the chaos. A strong hand caught her arm, steadying her. His blue eyes, no longer calm, scanned the viewport with terrifying speed. He did not look at her. His focus was absolute. How many can those transports hold? He asked, calm as if inquiring about the weather. Lyra stammered the answer. Another short nod. Then he released her arm and touched a small device at his ear, speaking in guttural tones. Around them, humans moved. Not clumsy, not loud, but silent, purposeful, forming a protective circle around scattered Zeosian dignitaries. They had no weapons. Nothing but their bodies, a living wall facing the sky. Not afraid. Waiting. The GL ships grew larger, weapons charging with a building hum. Lyra's breath caught. The soldier beside her, whose name she did not know, stood facing the oncoming storm, one hand in his pocket. A single soft creature standing against a tempest. Absurd. Magnificent. He glanced at her again, a nearly imperceptible smile. Reassuring, silent, saying simply, I am here. The deep, resonant hum of a human warship vibrated through the vestibule. Vast, angular, scarred and utilitarian, it slid silently between the palace and raiders. The GL ships scattered like startled insects. They fired no shots, their attack broken not by weapons, but by undeniable presence. The human ship held its position, a silent guardian. The soldier finally let out a slow breath, hand leaving his pocket. Sorry for the interruption, he said, warm and tired. Lyra, still by the viewport, realized the formal reception was forgotten. A new reality had taken its place. Gathering the courage he had inadvertently given her, she spoke softly. You would have stood there. Died? No, princess, he said simply. We would have stood there and stopped them with our hands if we had to. In that moment she understood. Human ferocity had been misnamed. It was not ferocity, it was an absolute illogical refusal to yield. A stubborn defiance shining brightest in the face of oblivion. Why? She asked, the weight of her world in her voice. He looked at her, then at the other Xyloians emerging from shock. Because you were sitting here, he said quietly, giving that slow nod again. Because someone had to. He turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd of his people. Lyra watched him go, silver gown reflecting the peaceful nebula outside. She had learned the truth. It was not strength or weapons that were terrifying. It was the simple, unshakable promise in the eyes of one who would stand alone against the dark, simply because another soul was there. And she realized that was the most magnificent thing she had ever seen. Please follow my channel for more videos. One click from you can change my life.